Bit of a minor disclaimer before this video properly gets started. I just want to say I'm not a reviewer, I'm not a critic, I have no form of education in this sort of format. I've never done this sort of thing before. I just enjoy thinking about media critically. I don't have a script. This is all off the cuff, which is sort of how I do things. I tend to improvise, which I know can be a bad thing, but I hope I get my points across. Steven Universe is a series that I hold very near and dear to my heart. I love it for the most part, and in light of the recent episodes that have come out, I would like to share my thoughts on a rather controversial subject. I've had several discussions with family and friends over this matter, and I would just like to put my perspective on the whole ordeal out there. And hopefully I do well with this video. Hopefully it's done well, and hopefully you guys like it. All right. So here we go. Steven Universe, Cartoon Network sleeper hit that it targeted well with audiences moderately after it started its runtime, but that's besides the case. This show started off with a very rocky start as what I would classify as the run-of-the-mill Cartoon Network mindless humor show. Oh, and for me at least, it wasn't until like the Lapis Lazuli story arc where this show actually got interesting in its storytelling. And like it actually showed that this show had potential and it planned to go outside of the norm of what's on Cartoon Network. I really like shows that have a good story, like shows that have a narrative you can follow. Like Star Wars The Clone Wars is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. I love that show. I love its story. I love the action. I love the characters. And a lot can be said about... And a lot I can say the same about Steven Universe. I love the characters. I love the action. And the story is... I mean, the story has taken interesting turns recently, to say the least. But overall, I've really enjoyed this series. I think it has interesting morals. Some hit, some don't. But, however, as much as I may love this series, as of the newest episodes releasing, Change Your Mind, or Battle of Heart and Mind, or whatever they want to call it, the newest episode centered around... sort of, basically the episode was completely fan service. I'm just gonna say that, but in complete honesty, the main point of this episode, I believe, was the topic of this video: redeeming the diamonds. And that honestly did not sit very well with me. The idea of don't get me wrong, I don't think the idea of redeeming the diamonds is impossible. It's just the way that they've put it in the story, it doesn't feel right. Like, it really doesn't feel like these characters reasonably should be redeemed. And that's what this video is about. I'm gonna state why I say that, and I'm going to address some certain counter arguments that have been addressed to me by both friends and family, and I will do my best to try to basically state my side of the argument. Here's the main thing that sticks out to me when it comes to addressing, can the diamonds be redeemed? My answer to that question is no, they can't. Now, why do I say that? Because the diamonds have been established as characters that have directly overseen the extinction and destruction of countless thousands, possibly even millions of planets in their universe. And here's the thing. The show has sort of swept that under the rug. Like, if you remember this scene Yeah, you remember this shot from the episode Jungle Moon? Yeah. Does that planet look like it's hospitable to you? Does it look like it's had any sort of sentient life on it in any sort of recent years, like at all? Here's the thing. The diamonds did that. And this was just one planet we saw. And also in the episode Jungle Moon, it is very clearly established that there is other sentient life in this universe aside from humans and gems. Like this thing. I don't know what it's supposed to be, some sort of space camel, but it's obviously sentient, meaning that there is other alien life established within this universe. Meaning that in the countless planets that the diamonds have directly destroyed, and there's bound to be life on those planets. And do you think that those planets are hospitable at all? Do you think that whatever was alive on those planets survived the homeworld invasion? And it's the diamonds slaughtered. I mean, they basically wiped out possibly entire species of aliens, because if there are alien species established in this universe, there is very clearly life on some of these other planets. Not all of them, but who knows how many countless planets have been wiped extinct. And for what reason? For what reason did the diamonds wipe out these other planets? We don't know. And before I hear anyone addressing the fact that, oh, but there might not be other life on those planets, we don't know that for sure, then I'll ask you this one question. If they have not come across any form of resistance in their thousands of years of tyranny over their home planet, why do they need an army? Doesn't that seem like a waste of very valuable resources to create an army when you have no resistance that you're trying to fight? And this is before Pink Diamond started a rebellion. This is all before that happened. Why do they need an army if there's no form of resistance? Clearly, they came into conflict with some sort of alien species that was like, hey, we don't want you to wipe out our planet and use it as basically your own breeding lands. And they resisted. And clearly, that didn't go over well. Because nobody, up until Pink, who was working on the inside practically, managed to make a substantial dent in their empire. So, they had an army even before Pink created a rebellion. So, why did they need it if they didn't come into any sort of collision with any form of resisting force? Follow up to that, and the fact that the show itself has sort of directly swept this under the rug is what I would consider bad storytelling. You're trying to give the diamonds a redemption arc, but you're directly sweeping the bad things that they've done under the rug. They don't feel sorry for what they've done. And they don't feel sorry for the countless of lives they've taken. They only feel sorry for hurting Pink. In fact, when the subject of the thousands of planets that they've conquered is brought up, Yellow Diamond says this. Yellow directly views her colonizations on hundreds of other planets as an achievement. She feels no form of remorse for the countless of lives she's taken, and it's really sort of underplayed the fact that these tyrants have effectively committed universal genocide for countless of thousands of years, and it's sort of glossed over. Like, it's never brought up, the fact that they've wiped out who knows how many lives on how many other planets by the main characters. It's never brought up. You could have like I think, an entire like story arc dedicated to the Diamonds coming to terms with what they've done, showing any form of remorse other than the fact that they feel sorry for what they've done to Pink. And heck, even only Blue has had any time to get any sort of dedication given to her to show any signs of remorse. Yellow does it in like 30 seconds. And I don't even think she feels directly bad for what she did to Pink. I think she just felt underappreciated. And Blue was the only one who showed any form of remorse for what they did to Pink. Just Pink. Not the countless of other lives that they had taken. And White, I think, is the worst offender of this. Granted, the series is not over yet, and White has only been on screen for, I want to say, like, 2 minutes. And I assume we're going to get some more screen time dedicated to her. But with how the series has gone, and Steven being required to be in every episode, unless Steven goes back to Homeworld again, which I don't know why he would do that, it really doesn't seem... It kind of feels like we're really not going to see White Diamond again. And I could be wrong. Granted. But again, the Diamonds feel absolutely no remorse for what they've done to countless of other species that they had wiped from the star maps for the sake of expanding their own empire. And that is my stance on why the Diamonds should not be redeemed, because they don't feel sorry for what they've done. The show sweeps it under the rug, and honestly, I don't know if there's a form of punishment that you can dish out that's proper or enough for universal genocide for how many years, and other than possibly imprisonment for, I don't know, eternity maybe, and, I don't know, death, frankly, because what other punishment would you see fit for intergalactic genocide for countless of thousands of years? And this is completely glossing over the fact that they've used their subjects as tools, means to an end. They are tyrants running an empire, expanding it and slaughtering who knows how many other planets because they can. Their motivation is not addressed whatsoever in the show. The only implication we have is they're powerful, therefore they expand their empire because they can. That's really all we get. I'll get into what I would have done differently, or what I think should be done in going forward with this story, but as I've made my stance clear, I will now address arguments that are commonly brought up when I have this debate with relatives or friends. And the number one argument that was brought up to me that I want to address right off the bat, because this rubs me the wrong way, not with just Steven Universe, it's a show for kids. Yes, you can have a show that is directed towards children. There is nothing wrong with that. That doesn't excuse bad writing. You can have a show that's for kids, and it can still be criticized if the writing is poor. Or like Star Wars is a series that people say is for kids, which I strongly disagree with, but it's still criticized commonly. Yeah. Heck, even cartoon shows that are made just for kids, like My Little Pony, are criticized on the regular. That doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that there's, and again, there's nothing wrong with making entertainment that's just for kids, and there are certain exceptions to this, like cartoons for kids that don't have an overarching narrative, like SpongeBob SquarePants, which really doesn't have a method of a story to it. However, I'd like to think that kids are intelligent enough to tell when a SpongeBob SquarePants episode isn't funny. Yeah. Which means the writing for that episode was done poorly, at least in the joke department. bad writing can be in kid shows. And I honestly don't even think Steven Universe is a show for kids. Most of the people I know that watch it are either young adults or 16 to 18-year-old teenagers. Here's the argument that a show is beyond criticism because it is just for kids is something that I do not feel holds any ground whatsoever. You can criticize something that's for kids, because even if it's for kids, it can be written poorly. And I'd like to think that I'm not the only person that cares whether or not we have our kids watching something that's well written or not, because I'd like to think we give our kids quality. Yeah, I myself am not a parent, but if I were, I would prefer to let my kids watch something a bit more meaningful than, say, Teen Titans Go, but that's a beast for another day. Yeah. Another argument that I hear when talking about this subject is the Diamonds they're doing community service as punishment for their crimes. First of all, no, they're not. They spent like 10 minutes healing some corrupted gems, which, yes, that's paying for something that they did, or not even paying for, that's undoing something that they did, which was apparently not even intentional. I'll remind you, they planned to kill all of the gems that were on Earth, not corrupt them, because clearly they didn't expect this to happen. Oh, and if you're going to ask me, okay, then... If you're going to ask me or try to propose that they tried to do something else, what else would they have done, frankly, other than if the corruption was unintentional, what would they have tried to do by firing lasers at the Earth other than kill everyone who's there? Because they had their own forces retreat. What else would they be doing if they weren't trying to kill the rebellion? And so, on all accounts, that would be even worse, granted, because they tried to kill them. And it's ridiculous that this is just swept under the rug. Oh, you tried to murder all of us, and you did apparently kill a few of us. So, I guess we're friends now. And I'm just like, This is redemption done extremely poorly for the sake of just having redemption, and everyone can just be happy. And another argument that has been stated is people have compared the Diamonds to real-life existing tyrants, like Hitler. And I don't remember who the other one was. Like, oh, they were tyrants too, and I just ask... were they redeemed? Were people like that redeemed? No, they weren't. And they died. And here's the thing. I'd like to think that there's a difference between intergalactic genocide for thousands of years and what happened in real life. Like, there's no math in that. It's not to underplay any of the horrible things that people like Hitler did, but I'd like to think that intergalactic genocide holds a bit more of a substantial placement when compared to something like that. And so there's really no comparison. And besides, they died! The Diamonds did not die. And they are not dead. And it really does not seem like they are going to die to pay for their crimes. Another thing, real quick, is redeeming the Diamonds. This isn't an argument, this is just following up on my point. Redeeming the Diamonds from a storytelling standpoint does not work even more, because redeeming the Diamonds completely defeats the point of the Crystal Gems' original mission. What was their original mission? Freedom. The Diamond subjects are tools, means to an end. And they are what they are made to do, and they do nothing more. Or they're not allowed to think that they can be anything more, and they're not allowed to think for themselves, period. And it is specifically stated that Rose, aka Pink, when she found Garnet, wanted to fight more than just for Earth. She wanted to fight for gems, to be free, to choose who they wanted to be. But here's the problem. The diamonds are still in a position of power. They're still the boss. Yes. And the scene that really bugged me when I was watching Change Your Mind was when Jasper gets healed mostly from her corruption, and she looks at Steven and she's fully ready to go back to fighting them until she sees the diamonds. And then she just sort of backs off, like, oh, my bosses are friends with them now. I guess we're not fighting. Like, it completely defeats the point of their mission because the diamonds are still in a position of power. They are still the intimidating force on their planet. And they hold the highest rank in all of Homeworld. They are, without question, the most powerful characters in the entire series. And their subjects still listen to them. Or at least still follow in their footsteps because they haven't been given an opportunity to think for themselves. Jasper's recoiling upon seeing that the diamonds are buddy-buddy with the crystal gems now just cements this fact, because there are this defeats the purpose of the crystal gems' initial mission: freedom for gems to choose who they want to be. Yeah. Now with the diamonds still in charge, the diamonds are going to be like, okay, you guys are... What are the diamonds going to do? They're going to be like, okay, you guys are good now. Like, that defeats the point. Like, you guys are good now, and that's that. What if some of the gems on Homeworld don't like the direction that they're taking, going this whole new pacifist route or whatever? Or like, we're the good guys now. We're friends with the good guys now. Like, what would happen if some gems didn't like that? What would happen if they decided, no, I don't want to do that. They are our enemy. We've fought them for who knows how many years. And it's, what are they going to do? What are they going to do if another resistance starts because of this? Because they're like, no, these guys are our enemy. We fought them for thousands of years. We're not going to be friends with them just because you said so. Oh. And honestly, I don't even think that would happen because, again, these gems are not allowed to think for themselves. If the diamonds are still in a position of power, it completely defeats the point of the crystal gems mission. And I'm gonna bring up a counter to myself here, in a way. The fact that the diamond's motivation is never explained. It's very clearly shown that Homeworld is not exactly in one piece. I wouldn't say it's necessarily stable, and it's clearly been hollowed out to the point of desolation. Like it's just an empty hole at this point. I mean, if you gave me the excuse that the diamonds were expanding their empire because Homeworld is dying, I would believe that. Frankly, it's a matter of survival. I would absolutely believe that. However, if this was the case, then redeeming the diamonds would make even less of a point. I mean, it would utterly defeat the diamonds' mission if their goal was to save their planet or save their species because it's dying. Because they're just going to stop now. They're just going to stop their expansion. They're going to stop creating new gems. Is this just the end of the crystal gem race? Are they just not gonna populate anymore? Does it just stop here? Or do the diamonds just be like, hey, let's not colonize more planets. Let's let our planet die. Yay! What was the point? It defeats the point of either side's mission. And even if this isn't their motivation, one of the things that I personally think we need in future episodes, or if it's not going to be addressed in future episodes, I'm going to ask why, Give us the diamonds' motivation. Give us the reason for them expanding their empire. Give us a reason for why they're doing what they're doing, because we really haven't gotten that. And I'm just speculating here when I say, oh, it could be because the planet is dying, which, again, I've already addressed, would defeat their point of their mission for survival if they're redeemed, because they're just going to stop doing that now. So their planet's just going to die. It's utterly defeated the point of the Crystal Gems mission. And if the diamonds stop colonizing, the gems as a species will stop to populate, because it's clearly established that these gems do not populate through alternative means other than injecting a bunch of goop into the surface of a planet and letting them fester in the core, which saps the life out of any energy, which saps the life out of any area that it's in, turning it into effectively a desolate wasteland of catacombs and nests. So the gems as a species will no longer grow. Homeworld will die, assuming that that's the reason for them creating their empire. And the Crystal Gems have utterly defeated the point of their original mission, freedom. The point was freedom. And with the diamonds still in a position of power, that completely defeats the purpose of freedom, because they're still in charge. And what are they going to do? Just send all the homeworld gems to Earth now? Is that what's going to happen? So they're just going to send an entire alien species to Earth, and they're just going to live there now. That's a good idea, because there will be absolutely no negative repercussions from either humanity or from within their own forces. This is who think humans are beneath them, because they've been given that mentality for thousands of years by their leaders. Do you understand why this frustrates me? Because the diamonds have been doing this one way for thousands of years. They're the head honchos. They're the bosses. And they don't feel sorry for anything that they've done, except for maybe corrupting the gems and hurting Pink. But in the grand scheme of things, when compared to the other things that they've done, like enslaving their entire race and using them as tools and murdering who knows how many countless of thousands of species across the known universe, and the unknown, for the record, I think that that's kind of minuscule. It's one thing to corrupt a small portion of your species because they rebelled against you for your tyrannical ways. It's another thing to use the rest of your species as tools, effectively, devoiding them from all purpose other than what they were made to do. Devoiding them of all freedom, all choice, and basically rendering them as robots, essentially. They have no choices, yet they have emotion. And it's clear that a lot of the gems don't really like that direction. Like the guards at the zoo, when they hang out with Amethyst, they're clearly not happy. And that's a problem to the diamonds. They're not allowed to think for themselves. It's basically a hive mind. It's my way or the highway. Or in some others' case, it's my way or you die. You so much as disagree with me, then you are scum beneath my heel. The diamonds are not reasonable. Well, what reason would they have to try and negotiate when they have an entire army, basically an entire planet with a giant mech suit, I might add you. A giant mech. What was that for? Seriously, what was that for? If it's fitted with ridiculously powerful weapons, these things are huge, and why would they have that if I mean, even pink has a part of that thing. Why would they need that if it's just for transportation? Then why is it fitted with so many weapons? It's ridiculous. And another thing, remember the cluster? Yeah, they did that too. We're just gonna sweep that under the rug now too because the cluster is apparently happy. You know, I think they'd be a lot happier if they weren't jumbled up together in a ball near the center of the earth. Whereas if they could actually move, you know, I think they'd be a bit happier. And remember those other gems that were smashed together, shattered, like those freaky ones? They did that too. Ooh, and we're just going to sweep all of this under the rug because we want the diamonds to be redeemed. It baffles me. It's mind-blowing, frankly. And as much as I'd like to go on, and as much as I believe I have more points about this, the other counter-arguments are escaping my mind at the moment, so I can't address them properly. Yeah. And this video is going on really long as it is. Heck, I think this is going to be the longest video I've ever made. Wow. Went from 4 minutes to friggin' half an hour. Well, for those of you who have managed to sit through this and listen to me rant about a kid's show, quote unquote, for like half an hour, I do hope you enjoyed it. And I hope that my arguments were moderately consistent, that they made sense, and that, well, you guys enjoyed. And who knows, maybe some of you agree with me, and I'm sure some of you won't. And if you have any statements you'd like to make, I'd love to see them in the comments below. Oh, honestly, I love engaging in debates as long as they remain civil. Well, I love thinking critically about media, and I intend to do more things like this in the future. So if you guys have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. This is the first time I've ever actually made a video with moderately proper recording. That's longer than 15 seconds. So, yeah, I guess that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little rant critique thing. I don't even know what it is. I guess I'll find out when I make the title. And I will see you guys in the next video. Once again, let me know what you think in the comments. If you have any sort of feedback or disagreements or counter-arguments, I'd love to hear it. And thank you for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.